The next thing that we've got is restricting access by location. It is location, right? Restricting access by location. So you have created the users, but what you want is the user should be able to log in from here only, from your office only. They should not be able to log in from somewhere else or from their home. आप बताओ. Okay. They should not be able to access from their home or from somewhere else. They should only be able to access from this office. So that's basically restricting the access by location. How we can do that? How can we do that? Tell me. Okay. IP address? How? जो भी अपना ठीक है. हाँ. और geolocation you're saying. Okay. So tell me, what is IP address? हाँ definitely यार, full form सबको पता है. Internet protocol. But the thing is, like, what is exactly it is? What is IP address? It is a network address. Sure. Network address of a particular device or of a particular network. Device, sure. So can't multiple device, like, what? That's too technical. And OC address, host address, that's IP address. Okay. Okay, let me tell you. So you got your own address, home address, right? Everyone. So whenever I want to send you something, which I'll never will, but whenever I want to send you something, I need a dedicated address on which I can send it to you, right? So you have mentioned your home address, your permanent home address, where if you want to send something, we can send it to you. But let's talk about something else. Internet, right? In internet, on Google, you write down like, let's say, Bugatti. Then you see the images and the links related to Bugatti at that same moment. And at the same time, your friend is searching Salesforce. And he or she is getting the links or the images related to Salesforce, or the information related to Salesforce. They both are going to the same server of Google, and the Google server is responding to their request. They have requested to access this particular type of data, and the Google server is responding to their request and sending the data back to them, back to both of them. But how Google server, or whichever server there is identifying to whom I have to send the result of Bugatti and to whom I have to send the result of Salesforce? With the help of the IP address. So whenever you are in a network, to identify your device uniquely in that network, there is an IP address which gets associated to you, right? And that what you're saying is a combination of IP address and host address. It's perfectly fine. There's no problem with that, but that's too technical for now. So IP address is basically an address with the help of which we identify a single word. A single device, or a single device which is connected to that network uniquely. That's what we do. That's what is the use of an IP address. So, like, you all have got your own IP address. Do you think so? No? Pata nahi. You have got your own IP address. Can you tell me what it is? Change hota rehta? Sure. Kaise? Exactly. So your IP address gets changed again and again whenever you switch your networks, right? So like, let's talk about it. If you're connected to the Wi-Fi in here, your IP address would be different, right? If you're connected to the Wi-Fi at your home, then your IP address would be different. If you're using your phone and you're using your mobile data, then your IP address would be different. If you're using your mobile data at this place right now, the IP address can be different. If you use it after an hour, the IP address can be different over here only. If you use it at some other place where the tower is different, then also the IP address can be different. So let's talk about it. IP address is of two types. Number one, static. Static means which never changes, which is fixed. Number two, dynamic. Right? I didn't got it, Mars. Can you please elaborate? For a second, yeah, lat long. Latitude, longitude. No, 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 not the geolocation, not the geolocation. So there is static IP address and there is dynamic IP address. Normally, all the ISPs, who is an ISP? Internet service provider. Like in my case, it's Airtel, Vodafone, Jio. Like if I'm using it from the phone, if I'm using it from someone else who's giving us the lease line and everything, then there is GTPL, then there is like Airtel, and then there is Royal Connect, and there is different vendors who are providing me the internet. So these are the internet service providers. Normally, internet service providers never give you a static IP address. Why? Because they've got a certain range of it only, and they have to use those ranges only in order to give the access to multiple people. So they cannot assign you a static ID like that. You have to pay more sometimes, or sometimes they might, but especially over here, you do not get a static IP. And let me tell you what a static IP means. An IP address will be blocked for you in the web. It will be blocked. So like the IP address that I have got is this, and it's going to be this only. No matter whenever I'm using it, no matter from which laptop I'm using it, this is the IP address for the internet that we have got in here, that I am using, right? So static IP is required whenever you want to restrict the access by location. Let me tell you how. Whenever you want to access the whenever you want to access the access by, whenever you want to restrict the access by location, you can restrict it by the IP address. Number one thing. And why by the IP address? Because the geolocation coordinates in here are different from the geolocation coordinates over there. An office can be there, like, so like in a single office, if you're in a single office, it can be like 200 meters away, one building from another building, 200 meters, or sometimes it's 500 meters as well. If you're in the same college, you're at the college premises only, but there is a difference between one college and another college, and the coordinates are different over there. So the coordinates thing might not work every time, but this IP address thing will always work. And whenever we want to restrict the access by location, we restrict it with the help of IP address. But there is one prerequisite in order to restrict the access by location, that you do need to have a static IP address. If you haven't got a static IP address, and if you're restricting it with the dynamic address, the dynamic IP address that you've got, then in that case, you yourself will not be able to log in back into that, because that IP address might be assigned to someone else now. Getting it? So let's say you're living at 8 Pratap Nagar right now, but now your address gets changed and it's now 12 Pratap Nagar. So whatever data was coming up to you, and you were like, if someone needs to log in, they need to come to 8 Pratap Nagar. They're still at 8 Pratap Nagar, but 8 Pratap Nagar is assigned to some other plot, and 12 Pratap Nagar is this one. So even if we are at the right location, but still we are not able to access our all. So the first prerequisite in order to restrict the access by location is IP address should be static. And how to get a static IP address? You need to ask it to your ISP. That's how you get it, right? So if you're trying it, if you practice it at your home, make sure that you've got a static IP, and if you haven't got the static IP, don't do it. Otherwise, you yourself will not be able to open it up, right? You'll be like, I'm not able to access my org. I'm not able to access my org because you've restricted it on your own. Getting it? Is that clear? Okay. Let's see the questions in the chat. Okay. Okay. So like in here we haven't got that any like I mean in punch machine, punch in, punch out and stuff like that. So what we have done in here is for Syntaxa, people come in, people like start working, and when they start working, they get connected with the Wi-Fi in here, and then only their present automatically gets marked, right? And they just need to log in into a portal, but they are like they can log in into that portal, but they can only mark their attendance when they are in the premises. And how to like verify that they are in the premises? By IP address, and when their laptop is connected to that particular IP address. Make sense? What else? What else? What else? Yeah. Okay. So now, if I want to restrict the IP, restrict the access by IP, that is restricting the access by location. How I'm going to do that? Setup and Array, I've explained IP address from since morning. I'm talking about IP address and you're saying geolocation. Tell me, guys. You'll have to tell me. I'll not tell you. So write it down. Because when you'll be trying it at home, you might face a problem. You need to go to network access, and there is this coming up: trusted IP ranges. I'll hit new. This is my IP address, and let's say if I've got a range, if I've got multiple IP addresses, then in that case I can specify the range in here. Indexa Jaipur office. Done. If I want to add an IP address for my home as well, I can get that IP address and then I can add it over here. But that IP address needs to be started. Got it? So these are the trusted IP ranges. Now let's talk about something else as well. So now I've set this IP. Now if I'll try to log in into this org outside this IP, what will happen? If I'll try to log in into this org outside this IP address, then what will happen? So I'll not be able to log in? No, that's not true. I'll still be able to log in, but I'll face a security challenge. And that security challenge might be they'll send you a passcode on your phone, they'll send you a passcode on your email, or they might ask you the security question. Listen to this once again. This IP restriction thing gets applied on two levels. Number one, organization level, and number two, profile level. When you talk about organization level, listen to me what happens. If you're trying to log in into that trusted IP range, then that's fine, that's no problem. But if you'll try to log in outside from the trusted IP range, then in that case, you'll face a login challenge. And if you pass that login challenge, you'll be able to access it outside the IP range as well. Getting it? Now let's talk about profile level. So if you are setting this IP restriction on profile level, then in that case, you'll not be able to log in at all if you are accessing outside the trusted IP range. So that means there are two IP ranges, or there are two places where we can assign the IP ranges. If you set it at organization level, it is applied to all the users. And if any of the user tries to log in it outside from the IP range, then in that case, what is the problem that they're going to face? Security. Like they have to face a security challenge or a login challenge. But when it comes to profile, like when you set an IP range for a profile, then that means you're doing it for a particular set of users, or for the users who are on that particular profile. And if you set it for the users who are on that particular profile, if any one of them, like let's say if you're setting front desk executive should be on the front desk in order to do their job. So they cannot access it from outside this premises at all. We do not want them to do that. So in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to front desk executive profile. And in that profile, I'm going to set the login IP range. And now this front desk executive will not at all be able to access the Salesforce or outside the IP range, or outside the premises, or outside the IP range. So profile level is like completely restricting the access, and organization level is making it more secure. That's what the difference is. Is it clear? Should I repeat it once again, Vivek? Should I repeat it completely? Okay. Let's talk about it. So what I want is you to be able to work from the premises only. I do not want you to work from outside, or I do not want you to access the Salesforce outside of this premises. So in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to your profile and I'm going to set the IP range. Then you'll be able to access only from that IP range, not from somewhere else. But what I want is that if someone outside this premises is trying to log in into my Salesforce org, I want them to face a login challenge, so that not every hacker or not every person who might get the password from some other ways is able should not be able to access my org. So restricting the access by IP address on organization level is basically making it more secure, and restricting the restricting the access by IP address on profile level is completely restricting the access if the user is trying to log in outside of that IP. That's what it is. Make sense? Let me relate it with any example. So what you want is so there is a cupboard in here, right? And what I want is that you should be you should be in this premises only, and you should wear that ID card in order to access that cupboard, right? And that's one thing. And then let's talk about if you want to drink some water. So that's a relatable example actually. Let me see. So there is an application, and I want to make the access to that application more secure. And if I really want to do that, more secure means like people should be able to access it outside the premises as well, but they like only the authorized users should be able to access. So who are the authorized users who have got the access to the email, or who have got the access to the phone, where that passcode is going to come. Many of times you guys also face it. When you're trying to log in into Salesforce, it asks you for passcode, which is sent on your email. And when that happens, when you're trying to log in from another IP address, but when you're trying to log in into your Wi-Fi at home or Wi-Fi at here, then in that case, what happens? It allows you to access it without that passcode as well. And that happens because of cookies by the way. But when you'll set it on organization level, it will just make it more secure. It will not completely restrict the access. And if you want to completely restrict the access, then in that case, you have to set it on profile level. That's what it is here. Cannot find the example for now, I guess. You got the answer, Mars. I've repeated it, I think, thrice. If still you didn't got it, just let me know. I'll repeat it once again. Got it. Okay. So I hope you got it. Perfect. Now let's talk about something else. Have you set it on profile level? You haven't. So we'll simply go to profile, front desk executive. Login IP range, new, set the IP range, and that's done. This is how you do it. Is that clear? So this is about restricting the access by location.